dear viewer, I'm sorry to report that your piece will end in exactly 10 seconds. We're starting the story at the very beginning because every haunted forest deserves an origin story. In today's video, I want to walk you through the process of restoring by far the most terrifying part of the 70-year-old home, the Forbidden Forest. Smithers, release the hounds!
It's quite early in the morning now. Every day, my eyelids flutter open like a doll right at the crack of dawn. I like to rise early to get a head start on work and feel superior to everyone. But in reality, I end up spending those 2-ish hours on my phone furiously playing this game. Do you know it? Yeah, I'd say we know each other well enough for you to tolerate a quick tangent. This game is the bane of my existence. It's my villain origin story. My life is a cycle of playing it, failing, and then resolving to quietly become the world champion. And then inevitably, I'm completely destroyed and humiliated by the next person I play against, even if it's a 4-year-old. So yeah, this is how my mornings tend to begin. Staring very seriously at a system I do not understand, convinced that if I just look at it long enough, it will reveal its secrets to me, which as it turns out is excellent training for a backyard renovation. So this morning, I suddenly feel an urge to provide testimony on everything that's happened back here in the last year. After all, if a tree is desperately ripped out of the ground with one's bare hands and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? Like any good story, this one begins with historic satellite imagery dating back to 1931. 95 years ago, this is what this plot of land looked like. Seemingly bursting with trees, I can't imagine there was even a bare square meter here. Probably the happiest it had ever been. And then skip forward around 20 years, our lovely neighbors appear, and then a few more, and boop, a star is born. Now, some important context. Around 2014, this area was hit by the emerald ash borer.
A tiny, evil, invasive green beetle that kills ash trees from the inside out. After infection, it takes 3 to 4 years for the tree to die. So this is our backyard looking lush in the summer of 2014 when the beetle first arrived. This winter picture isn't great, but it's enough to show you that everything is upright at least. I wish I could enhance like in the movies. 2 years later, 2016, those crowns are looking a bit bare. The beetle seems to have been having a busy 2 years. And the next photo I have is 2018. These poor ash trees have been bodied. Trunk. And that's just the big ones we can make out from all the way up here. And when they fell, they crushed and ripped out smaller trees in the path of the fall. They gashed open the canopy, invited every vine, weed, and poison ivy demon waiting for its literal moment in the sun. And that is how a beetle the size of a grain of rice helped write the decade of carnage we found waiting for us out back.
Si no, hay un tronco bastante grande ahí. Uy, sí, es que esos están fatal. No, un pedazo de árbol, madre mía.
But golf courses have lost hundreds of ashes. It was a well-known, well-loved tree, and we make baseball bats and axe handles out of ash. I mean, it's a great burning wood too. You know, but you can't burn this because it's all rotted. You certainly have that one. I think you have this one. 3, and that leaner is 4, 5, and I don't know about that one. Maybe it was topped in an effort to try to save it. So I think this stump is indicative of the upper tree being gone. You see the ivy on that one? Yeah. The ivy is kind of a burden to you. So kind of you. Thank you.
It's not your first rodeo.
As they say, right. When you're really young, you have pictures on the refrigerator of getting married. Then you have the kids, and then later on you have pictures of your medical.
The expense and immensity of this clearing job terrified us, especially when we realized the trees were still actively dropping left and right. This tree that we were 1 minute being told was somewhat of a risk, we found ass off in the backyard mere days later. It's a really scary thing to step out even for a second to take the dog out when there are trees springing out of the earth like popcorn. There was no time for dilly-dallying. I mean, not really. Obviously, there's always time to dilly-dally.
I really this could be you, but you're a scaredy cat.
Meanwhile, there was the dog looking very, very concerned.
Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been
But in hindsight, I'm grateful for this. I mean, obviously I'm not grateful for a beetle that's gonna kill 25 million ash trees where I live. But given that it happened, I'm glad we were able to find the house like this because its unkempt state was the only reason we were able to buy it.
The team that cleared out the dead trees worked so fast with their big toys. I came home from work the first day expecting to see maybe 10 shrubs gone, and instead my knees buckled when we stepped up and suddenly saw for the first time how far back this area stretches. Here's Maeve invigilating the work site. This tree that's about to fall is fully dead and the green fur around it is poison ivy. Here's another spectacular drop by this really pretty tree who unfortunately was standing on a chewed up stiletto. After this huge push was done, we felt like we could finally step back and enjoy the space without a sense of impending doom. We couldn't stop admiring the beauty of the soft downward slope, how delightful it was to spot the cute sources of the ominous rustling we'd seen in the forest.
What happened with it? It's fine. Oh, it left.
And best of all, how many brave, healthy trees remain. We'd had a huge fear that our tree surgeon would diagnose everything either dead or with one foot in the grave.
The tree it's fallen on is alive, but the tree it fell from is dead.
But even after all the victims of beetles and incurable fungus and decay were cleared out, the backyard still looked really full.
The other thing I'm grateful for, and I'm trying to figure out how to say it without sounding sarcastic because I genuinely mean it, I'm grateful to the Forbidden Forest for draining our budget. Because we had to hand over our entire piggy banks to the brave men with the big scoopy yellow thing and the green juicer. It forced us to grow up and learn how to do pretty much everything else ourselves. And this has been such a gift to me. Like, the graph of my self-efficacy is just a sharp elbow when all these challenges came along for me to feast on. And I bring it up because I think it generalizes well beyond home renovation. It's just a cycle of repeatedly, 1, finding a challenge I haven't encountered before, 2, researching plenty, but more importantly, making the call myself when I feel I've done enough research to avoid getting stuck in a loop of doubt. And 3, plowing forward with the earnest acceptance that if, in fact when, the result is imperfect, it's not only better than nothing, because I don't accept that platitude, it's actually so much better than something perfect because I did it. It makes me feel confident, like a mature adult. That's my song.
Take for instance this stone patio. I know it might be hard to focus on it with the effervescent green rectangle also in the shot, but I'm saving that for the next video. The patio was not an emergency by any means, but once we had cleaned out the tub of mosquito broth, it was feeling really dirty, with mud and little rocks sticking to our feet whenever we got out of the pool, and these pale green hairs sticking out of the joints. Sometimes the entire glob of grout would just come out stuck to your foot like an unsolicited block heel. So we had an absolute blast cleaning these gorgeous slate slabs, each of which turned out to have a different color and slightly different texture, so that once all cleaned, they look like a plate of jewels. I know you're supposed to wear closed-toed shoes while pressure washing, but in this case, the reason I chose not to is because I'm irresponsible. You already know that I love to put my mom to work. You can't blame me. Literally, the first thing I learned in this life was how to make her labor. She brought these slimy side ramps back to their sparkly glory, and then she spotted me while I got up on the roof for some mischief. And then I forced her to join me on a regrettable failed side quest to pressure wash mold out of a Facebook Marketplace rug. That heavy, wet, moldy wool rug lives on in our memories and hopefully absolutely nowhere else. Once the slabs were sparkling, I scraped off all of that loose grout and then I numbered each one because I was about to move them all away so that we could level the sand underneath. The availability of video documentation is always indirectly proportional to how strenuous I find a task. There were hours and hours of soil stamping, and then on the stair sections, I got so desperate to make them flush with the landing, so I started bringing over wheelbarrowfuls of stolen gravel from the driveway. The final step was to apply this lovely sand. It's called a jointing compound. Honestly, it's a very soothing final step. It's totally mess-free and you just wet it and sweep it into the gaps and it hardens, but it's still permeable. After doing this across 2 90-degree weekends, my body was calling out for rest, so I took a break to make a custom swag line for my beloved friends and colleagues using, among other things, my mother's old sari. And that allowed me the much-needed rest to get back to the patio.
Oh my, wait, this is unacceptable.
I had just bought this camera and I was willing to do anything but read the instructions, so I found myself recording things with no audio, no color, in slow-mo. I once talked for 20 minutes thinking I was filming, but I'd just taken a picture. Here, I'm trying to show you the brick veneers I chose to cover up the ugly concrete block wall here. It doesn't matter that we don't have audio because I still remember the best part. At the time, it worked out to be half the price to order 30 sample boxes than to place just one order of what I needed.
So I finished sticking these blocks to this, and now I'm going to move over to the veneer. For these blocks, I started off intending to do an absolute hack job. I somehow managed to make it even more of one, so I'm very proud. Now for the veneer, it's super important to have everything aligned like perfectly to the tiniest fraction of a centimeter, because if your veneer isn't perfectly aligned, it's a mess. Like, everyone's gonna laugh at you, no one's gonna take you seriously. It's really one of the more consequential things that you're gonna do in this life is have your veneer perfectly aligned. So I'll be using a level, I'll be using a moisture meter, I'll be using various paraphernalia to make sure it's perfect. You'll see.
Okay, yeah, the horizontality of these lines would probably throw a true craftsperson into a state of shock, but it matters exactly zilch to me. I'm so happy I got to do every step of this myself because my life is richer for it. Not just in that we saved thousands of dollars, just that being anywhere in the world feels like being in a theme park now. These weeks obsessing over details I'd never previously given a hoot about, what kind of stone, what kind of grout, veneer or full brick, what pattern, and then actually slogging through the process and understanding how laborious even the simplest task is, it is now impossible for me to not guzzle in and delight in the masterful work I see everywhere. How wide the joints are, what are they filled with, beautiful mitered corners and borders, just because borders make everything prettier. And this is what it's looking like a year later. Not bad for a transformation for around $300. The green hairs are starting to sprout out even through this jointing, which might mean I need to add more jointing, or likely I'll just spray them with vinegar. I cut this rose bush down to a tiny stub hoping to kill it last year because it kept scratching me on the way down, and it has come back with such fury and style that I now respect it and I will accept that maybe my shins will just be a little scratched from now on. Soon we're going to clear out all of this stuff and plant a huge food garden, especially a ton of mint and parsley and lavender, so that when we're seated here we feel like we're in a salad.
Also, I say we, but I 100% mean my mom.
And here we'll build out a cute little path to be able to step out through this basement window, maybe with materials that allow us to combine these three colors, the brown jointing, gray stones, and red brick. And I want to paint these white peeling walls something earthier. And I want to figure out a way to make a discrete canopy of series lights hanging between the decks. Ooh, and I want to design and build furniture for here. Ooh, and I want to make a fence out of dramatic wire sculptures and engrave tags for each of the trees, and build a winding cobblestone path down to the back with a sunken fire pit and brick pizza oven, and have a zip line from the roof to the back of the yard.
And I want to live on the moon and eat it in a pie and keep it as a pet and wear it like a gemstone in my hair.
And I do believe each and every one of those is achievable because I have friends who will gas me up like this for even the most anticlimactic project reveal.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
You guys already know what happened to the other half of my carnival lights, but here's a brief moment when it was complete.
It's pecking at it. Stop that, muy mal.
Getting to be the stewards of this backyard is obviously a huge gift, but it's also been a wait. The plants grow so voraciously here, and they're aggressive in their resilience. You can put hours and days of back-breaking effort into clearing an area, and all it takes for your work to be reversed by angry poison ivy is the reliable continued spinning of the earth. You look away for a second, you just blink. Okay, maybe your blink is a few weeks spent on urgent matters such as digging up deer bones.
Don't bring it to me, bring it to the dog. Wow.
So cool, look at the ethmoid process. It allows materials to pass through. It's bone, but it's like super spongy.
So now you're a deer odontologist?
No, I'm just extrapolating from humans. Girlie! I brought you a mandible and a skull. Come here. These teeth are really cool. They're very clearly herbivore teeth. Look how flat they are.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of insects, and I'm not fooled by all these creeps that have hoodwinked y'all, like the butterflies and the fireflies and the ladybirds. My phobia does not discriminate. I will twitch and smack myself at the thought of any and all.
Only I know the kinds of Jeev Jentus that are here. What's that? Oh, what's up on my head?
There's nothing to shoot, nothing to do.
We had a brief moment of innocence, believing this fence could keep this deer out of the backyard. Look at how casually it jumps over the fence as if it's made out of springs.
mis sábanas blancas, como dice la canción, recordando las caricias que me brindo el primer día y enloquezco de ganas de dormir a su ladito, porque Dios que está flaca a mí me tiene loquito. Oh, a mí me tiene loquito. Por un beso de la vaca yo daría lo que fuera, por un beso de ella, aunque solo uno fuera, por un beso de la vaca yo daría.
And one day you look out of your window and a whole new forest has begun to grow, thick with weeds that want to kill your trees and burn your skin and borrow your clothes with no intention to return them. When this day comes, you cannot call the man with the yellow truck again. You must become the man with the yellow truck.
Is it recording? Let's fit my head through this. Oh my god. Oh god. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
It's a 90-degree day. Last I checked, it was like 90% humidity. So these dark black boots, a thick long sleeve shirt, a construction helmet. This is, possibly, likely, certainly overkill. But just for this first round, this is what I'll do. Next time around, I'll probably operate this machine with my mouth. There's some poison ivy. Maybe I stay away from you just for now. I'll be back to take some risks.
So even though I spent so much time fighting it in sweltering heat, I felt a kinship with this land. I realized this backyard, just like me, without a clearly defined mission, will go rogue and start to sprout all sorts of bad ideas. This prompted the 3-week period of my life that I have been the most insufferable ever. Honestly, everyone in my life should have been a bit impressed with the Olympic-level agility with which I could divert a conversation to grass varietals. Tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, our workhorse, perennial ryegrass. Feels so familiar and comforting to say even now.
Aunque solo uno fuera.
By the way, in case you're finding this cute, you should know that Maeve is actually smearing her body into a dead frog in the grass. Planting grass really lends itself to becoming an all-consuming obsession because the job doesn't end just when you get the seeds spread out using the seed sneezer. Once it's down, you have to ensure that it doesn't ever get dry or the seed will die. In our case, that meant for almost 3 weeks, pausing work every 20 minutes to run out like a hungry baboon to yank the sprinklers from the ground and switch their location. I began checking the weather app for rain with the emotional dependence of a Victorian sailor's wife. The first 10 days were the most stressful because I had no idea if all the babying was even working. The seeds just sit there looking the same for what feels like eternity. So I remember one glorious morning waking up and the backyard was washed in a soft green hue, and I was washed in relief that my commitment to being cheap had not destroyed the entire enterprise. I had skipped so many steps to cut costs, no fertilizer, no straw, questionable watering system, and it was such a joy to see that I'd taken the right risk. I mean, I wasn't quite celebrating yet, but with every day that passed, this cute green stubble turned into a healthy, confident beard.
I'm so grateful for this insane length of growth, but this section is really it's very patchy, like areas where it's growing really well, it's really growing well. And then we have some very stubborn patches that have now, I think I've put seed on this like 3 or 4 times. I think this section just has no intention to ever grow. Yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna grow. Well, screw you. Screw you.
You mean the world to me. You're my living fantasy. I love you. But no over you. Lover, don't get this love to nobody. Lover, don't call another nigga honey. Lover, lover, I wanna be a lover forever, forever.
Thanks for letting me indulge in these icy clips as I edit from my kitchen floor on a 90-degree late night in the middle of June.
Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out.
I don't think I knew when we bought this house how much of loving it would mean learning to live inside unfinishedness, and not the cute kind. The kind with a lot of poison ivy and leaking roofs and scary bugs. But there's something sweet about it too. You know, work has a way of teaching the eye. Once you've spent enough hours crouched in the dirt trying to make just one crooked thing slightly less crooked, you stop moving through the world as if things just appear and remain. You notice when a tree is thriving, you notice where water wants to trickle, you celebrate when the green comes in thick, and then you heckle when it hesitates, and you appreciate the careful joint between stones. So thank you for watching me slowly become the man with the yellow truck. I'm gonna go stare at the grass now in case it needs me.